Welcome to the SSPX podcast. I'm Father Ian Andrew Palko, a priest of the Society of St. Pius X and an occasional guest on the podcast here. Today, as you'll see, it's just me because we're just looking to give a quick answer to help Catholics and others understand some basics about a complex topic that's recently hit the news, in vitro fertilization or IVF. Like I said, it's a somewhat complex topic, and we're preparing a longer Questions with Father episode on it. But for now, it seemed important to give some 30,000-foot answer, a view I'm kind of familiar with from my weekly flights to our missions. And since I presented the morality section of the apologetics series, I drew this straw. As many of you will know, recently, about 2 weeks before I'm recording this, the Alabama Supreme Court touched on in vitro fertilization in a decision that it made. Quick summary there, a man was charged under the Wrongful Death of a Minor Act in the state for negligently killing several embryos frozen early in life as part of IVF. He claimed they weren't children. The court, though, stayed consistent in defining an unborn child, according to Alabama law, as a human offspring between conception and birth. And while we'll talk about it a little bit, these embryos were conceived. They were children. Politically, that became a hot potato, and even so-called pro-life politicians rushed to defend IVF and proposed legislation to defend IVF, or thinking it was promoting more children, lauded the whole thing, or waffled on the subject because they didn't have solid principles. But we're not interested in political prudence or what politicians think. We're interested in what the Catholic teaching is and what natural law says. So, what's the answer? What does the Church say? What does natural law say? Without getting into the weeds, the 30,000-foot view would tell us IVF is intrinsically evil. It's wrong. It's immoral to participate in. And that's principally because it separates something that God joined together. As such, it's a grave sin. No amount of circumstances or good intentions can make it acceptable, tolerable, or good. Why is that? Well, let's step back a second. Back in the apologetics series, encourage you to watch that to get some of those principles. The morality of something, we said, first considers what this thing we're doing naturally tends toward, and if that's good or evil. After that, then we can consider circumstances and intention. Well, what is it that marriage is for? Or we could say, what is sexual intercourse in marriage meant for? It's made legitimate by marriage for procreation. And marriage exists for not only procreation, but the education of children. The natural law and then experience will show us that this sexual intercourse is the only legitimate natural means for procreation. And what IVF does separates the unitive marital act, by which a couple physically, though temporarily, is united, from the permanent union of two in one flesh, that of the child. And to do that separates the means and the end and perverts them, turning one over the other. Perhaps indeed the reason that a couple undergoes IVF is they can't naturally conceive. But in fact, they don't have a right to conceive. They have a right, by their marriage vows, to use the marital act in a way that is open to conception. IVF in such a case is akin to thinking because, well, my car battery's dead. I could walk, I guess, but no, I don't want to do that. I want to get there quickly. I want to take my means. I have the right to drive, so you steal your neighbor's car. The desire to have children is a very good thing, but to use sinful means to obtain children, that's not a good thing, no matter how good it is to actually have children. There are a myriad of other moral problems that come up about the soul, what to do with these embryos that are frozen, but that's one of the biggest problems there. Amongst the worst is that we're not machines, we human beings, and IVF fails frequently. And so the various labs will produce many of these embryos, manufactured embryos, by injecting a sperm into a dozen or more eggs, flash freezing the excess in liquid nitrogen for the future. At present, it's estimated that nearly 1 million children sit frozen in such prisons in the United States alone. To give you another sense here of what moral and sensible mess this creates, perhaps we should consider a case just recently. 2 children were conceived, rather manufactured, back in 1992. They were abandoned by their parents in the deep freeze, and they were adopted by a couple, implanted in the woman's womb, and on October 31st, 2022, she gave birth to newborn twins, not genetically related to her, but they were already 30 years old. It's bizarre, and this shows us that there's a complexity here that we need to talk about, even if we can say from the outset IVF is wrong. But we'll have much more to say in that upcoming episode. For now, hopefully, that's the high-level view, and this will help you to know the truth, and the truth will set you free. We'll see you in the longer Questions with Father episode soon. Until then, God bless all of you.